All right, I think we've finally got this. Excuse me for the technical kinks, just trying out a new system, and thank you for being patient with us. I think we're ready to go. Well, in a stunning move that no doubt has Washington reeling, uh, Vlad Putin, showing his love for President Joe Biden, has granted full citizenship to public enemy number one, Edward Snowden. As you may recall, back around, what was it, 2015, 2016, Edward Snowden released to the world, but primarily to we the people, the private citizens of the United States, all of the documentation and the information that we were literally living in a police state. That the Patriot Act, a gift from the Bush administration, wasn't really being used to track down terrorist cells. It was being used to track me and you, to listen in on our cell phone calls, read our emails, read our texts, and do it all without a warrant. No more right to privacy, no more Fifth Amendment. That was all gone because now anyone or anything that the intel community deemed as of interest could be monitored without any type of due process, period. Not even those rubber courts that they go to and they get their warrants from, like when they went and spied on Donald Trump at Trump Tower. So this removed even the pretense of pretending to follow the Constitution. And Edward Snowden was declared this enemy. Immediately, dregs from the Bush administration along with the Obama administration were calling this guy a traitor. He was continually vilified, even lied about. Julian Assange, the same thing. And we find out that what they were really doing was monitoring us. And he sought asylum in Russia. And of course, immediately that got all the Russia stuff worked up. And then, of course, you add into it when Donald Trump sought the nomination for the Republican Party and they cooked up the whole Russian collusion thing and they threw Edward Snowden in there. There were people who were petitioning Donald Trump to give a full pardon to Edward Snowden. Personally, I thought that he should have, as well as Julian Assange. But the president thought differently. I am sure some of his closest advisors, i.e., family, told him, don't do that with all of the Russian collusion and everything else that they have tried to pin on you. You don't want to be the guy that, in the eyes of the intel community and half the country, you freed this spy who has brought great danger into the lives of our ability to commit espionage around the world and put American lives in danger, yada, 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 yada. Yeah, how did it work out not doing that, Mr. President? I mean, you did the intel community that solid. You didn't pardon Snowden. Have they left you alone since you left the Oval Office? Oh, that's right. They just raided your house, Mar-a-Lago, right? Yeah. You, Mr. President, please go with your gut instinct on things. It really does prove to be right most of the time. And as hard as this may be for you to hear, certain people, even within your inner circle that are family, i.e., your son-in-law, Jared, are not. They're not always giving you the best and most salient of advice. So sometimes you just, need to treat him like he is, the son-in-law, and just say, yeah, thanks for your 2 cents. I'm going to go with my gut on this one. So now that he's been granted full citizenship, of course, immediately the media, working in collusion with the State Department and the Pentagon, they've got the narrative ready. Well, you know what this means now that Edward Snowden has sold his soul to Russia and to Vlad Putin. And now it's no longer he's just giving them information so that he could stay there. He has no choice. He has to give them information. This is what kind of information can Edward Snowden provide is it 8 years out? I mean, if our military, if our intelligence community hasn't updated and upgraded all of its safety protocols online and encryption and safeguarding the identities of our assets around the world, if in 8 years they haven't updated, upgraded, and changed all of that, then that's on them on the one level. But again, what Edward Snowden was doing was not outing U.S. assets. He was outing the intelligence community as a whole for treating the American people like we're all suspects of something, like we're all guilty of something, that the Bush administration was the actual catalyst for the police state. And you better believe that even some of the things that we have suffered and endured under Joe Biden were cooked up during the Bush administration. And yes, I'm talking about the empowerment of people like Anthony Fauci, who's been around since the Reagan era. When you're a bureaucrat and can serve under any presidential administration, that means that you yourself, on one level, don't have any real core values. You're a chameleon. But your real conviction is to the powers that be behind the curtain that actually pull the strings and control everything. Deep state to the eyeballs. That would be the operative way to describe Anthony Fauci. And if you think that everything that happened during those 2 years of the outbreak and the lockdowns was purely an accident, please, please, please. Now, that all said, Rand Paul has been really the only one on Capitol Hill really trying to be the defender of Edward Snowden. And, some of this is kind of like, our State Department could have dangled a carrot here years ago. The Justice Department could have dangled a carrot here years ago and said, okay, Mr. Snowden, if you'll come home, we will guarantee you a fair trial, an open trial. It'll be transparent. But see, they're not interested in that. And now he is property of Russia. Now, I don't know what he has the ability to do from there, and I would certainly hope that he would not put you and I in harm's way in information that he gives to the Russians when it comes to, where our spies and assets are around the world. And again, if 8 years out, we haven't changed all of those protocols and all of that up, if that stuff isn't somehow changed almost on a daily basis and sometimes even hourly basis as far as encryption and passwords, come on. Come on. What this really does, and this is what's got the State Department upset. This is what has the Justice Department upset. They can't extradite him. And Edward Snowden no longer has to stay inside Russia for protection. He's now a Russian citizen, which means he can travel. I don't highly recommend that he do that right now. But if he decided he wanted to go to Europe, if he decided he wanted to take off for a Caribbean island and enjoy a little fun in the sun, he can. And he can't be picked up by U.S. intelligence against his will and hauled off back to the United States. He's a Russian citizen now. He's not an American citizen. And any of our operatives or the intelligence community picking him up and taking him elsewhere without proper extradition, that would be seen as, what's the phrase number? Oh, yeah, an act of what? So I really think that Vlad Putin understands that there's not a whole lot of real information at this point he can get from Edward Snowden. Again, it's 8 years out. Procedures have changed, encryptions have changed, personnel and assets have all changed. Now, I think why Putin did this is twofold. One, he knows this absolutely is going to upset the U.S. government to no end. That's one. And I think the other is it's just another signal to the U.S. when it comes to what he's doing. Hey, keep your nose out of what I do unless you're really trying to start something with me. And again, what's been happening in Ukraine, some of us have been saying it since the very beginning, that Putin had been talking about this, that he was going to take back the regions within Ukraine that still wanted to remain in union with Russia. NATO got in there. There was a coup that overthrew the duly elected government, and Zelensky, Karpinski, whateversky was installed by the Barakmas Obama regime. They even tried to use him in another impeachment process against Donald Trump. It all backfired. It didn't work out. So, all that said, it is interesting now that Russia, i.e. Vlad Putin, has given not just full amnesty, he's given full citizenship to Edward Snowden. Snowden is now Russian property. And again, this is not a blanket defense of an Edward Snowden, and we certainly hope he has not turned quote unquote traitor. But instead of thinking all of this through and what they could have done to bring him home, guaranteeing him a fair trial, a pardon which could have been issued for him, now instead, you've made him Russian property. Way to go, State Department. Way to go, Intel community. And now let the spin from the lying legacy media begin.